What's up, people? CJ Kid 1231 here again. Regrettably, this is my second time actually doing this video because the first time I did it, it was uploading, everything was good, and then all of a sudden, the video just stopped uploading and I lost the video. So I have to basically do this whole thing again. So, anyways, you guys know what it is. Beats, Rhymes, and Life. Fourth Tribe album that came out in 1996. Now, this is a 3-year wait since the last album from Midnight Marauders. In that time, a lot had changed at that time. In between those 3 years, Phife had moved to Atlanta. Q-Tip, with the help of Ali Shai Muhammad, had converted to Islam, I think only a year later in 1994. And at the time, the East Coast, West Coast beef at this point was pretty much off and in the running. So, yeah, this is Tribe's probably the darkest Tribe album in their whole discography, up to this point at least. I mean, the topics on this album are much more mature, much more serious, and very, very, even the beats sound a bit darker than on the previous album. So, I mean, another thing that was different about this album that wasn't really there in the first three were the inclusion of what would in the future become to known as like extensive Tribe members. First of all, on the production side, in the 3 years that they took a break because they actually went on tour. That's one thing I also forgot to mention. They were on tour for those 3 years, and within those 3 years while they were on tour, they actually Q-Tip ran into a producer by the name of JD, who we all come to know as the late great J Dilla. And he, I think he got a beat tape from him, liked what he heard, and he decided to bring him on this new production crew called the Ummah. And the Ummah is basically, I believe, if you see me staring off, it's because I actually took notes and I have talking points for this video, so I'm just looking there. It's an Arabic word for community or brotherhood or nation, And the reason why the Ummah was formed at this time was because of the fact that at the time, from Q-Tip himself, there was a lot going on with production teams at the time. It wasn't really just a one-man thing anymore, or it still was, but the ones that were making the bigger hits and that were getting very, very well known were like production teams. Like you had the Hitmen from Bad Boy, and you had Track Masters, of course, that were doing hits for Nas and stuff like that. So they wanted to kind of form their own kind of production crew, that being the Ummah, which included Q-Tip, Ali Shai Muhammad, J Dilla, and then extensive members Raphael Sadiq and D'Angelo sometimes. And that was from the production side. So J Dilla actually, I think he produced like 5 joints on this album. And then also another introduction from an MC standpoint, which a lot of fans were kind of thrown off of, was Consequence. Now, Consequence is Q-Tip's cousin, who he decided to bring in on this album, who was originally supposed to have some parts on Midnight Marauders. If you remember on the last review that I did, I basically said that on the Chase Part 2, there was actually supposed to be verses from Pharrell and Consequence on that song, but they got cut for whatever reason. So they decided to bring him and put him back in here. Now, here's my thing about the whole Consequence situation. I don't really see the tremendous problem that he posed in the group or at like him being on it. To me, if you wanted to look at it from a certain point of view, or at least the way I look at it, to me Consequence has the same issues that Phife had. Not the same issues, but he was in the same situation that Phife was to me on the first album. Remember when we did the review for the first album, I said that the People's Instinctive sounded more like a Q-Tip solo album, if anything, with Phife sprinkled on here and there. Like, Phife sounded more like a feature artist on that album. I mean, yeah, you knew he was part of the group, but you didn't know to what extent. You know what I mean? And the difference between the situation that Consequence has on this album and that Phife had on that album is that even though the first album Phife was just okay, you know what I mean? He was just okay. He had his chance to break out on the second album, on the Low End Theory, with his introduction and every rhyme in that album. The microphone check 1 2, like that whole rhyme, that kind of like blew everybody's minds, and that really proved to everybody that he was a capable MC. The problem here is that up until this point, Consequence wasn't introduced previously to this, so not only did he have to introduce himself here, but he also had to come with it the way Fife did. Like, basically, Consequence doesn't have a microphone check 1 2. What is this moment on this album? So therefore, it didn't blow people immediately right away. You know what I mean? So that kind of just made people look at him and say, "Oh, okay. Well, this album, there's Fife, there's Q-Tip, but who's Consequence? Who's okay? Why is this guy? He's on 7 tracks. He's okay, but doesn't need to be." Like, these were the thoughts I'm guessing that people were having while trying to digest this album for the first time. So, yeah, the thing is, for me, maybe because I discovered Consequence after, like, I'd been to who Consequence was before I came back to review and digest this album. You know what I mean? So it probably didn't play a problem for me. Like, it wasn't that big of a deal for me. I knew who Consequence was, and I think Consequence was pretty great. And so yeah, maybe again it could be way different because at the time that people were first receiving this album, you didn't hear Consequence at all up until this point. So it's just like a stranger coming in out of nowhere and like meddling in the synergy and dynamic that Fife and Tip had. But I guess it is what it is on that standpoint. But anyway, I mean, I guess we could get into other topics. Now, this album is also known as what will come to be the beginning of the end for Tribe Called Quest in many people's eyes, which I mean, I kind of see and kind of can't see, because this album's pretty great. I think what it really was the internal dynamics being the beginning and the end for the group. I mean, you had, for those 3 years, even though they were touring, they were pretty much separated and they were pretty much going into their own. I mean, remember the first 3 Tribe albums, they were all together. Even though Ali was from Brooklyn, they would all come together in Queens and they would see each other every single day. But, with Fife moving to Atlanta and then Q-Tip converted to Islam, so he's kind of different a little bit himself, not seeing the things the same way he did before. Dynamic wasn't there when they came back, you know what I mean? I'm pretty sure Fife had to fly back and forth from Atlanta to New York and stuff like that. So, and with the inclusion of Consequence, like, the whole dynamic was changed. But anyways, let's finally get into this album. The beats again are very, very dark. Not very, very dark. I mean, you still have that youthful intent sprinkled in here on the album like you did in the previous ones, but this is pretty much the first, okay, we're adults now, let's talk about some serious stuff that are going on with adulthood. That's pretty much on the album. It's very, very much dark in the tone that like, well, one thing I can't say, I know I'm kind of muddling here with my words, but it's just that there's a lot that I want to say about this album. One of the things that I can say about this album is that the bars. Let me not get into the bar. See, the thing is, for the longest time, this is a fun fact, before really deciding on the order that I have as far as what albums from Tribe are the best and stuff, I used to at one point debate between which was better between this album and Midnight Marauders, because even though I said Midnight Marauders was very bar heavy, this album is very, very bar heavy. Like, holy crap. Like, coming back to this album, I didn't think that Tribe was actually gonna, not that I didn't think they would probably surpass the bars that they had displayed on Midnight Marauders, but on this album was I surprised. I mean, on Fife especially, like on his solo track Baby Fife's Return, he just goes off, and I think on the song The Pressure, Fife goes off too. I mean, they really, really bring it on this album. Like, this might be the most bar heavy Tribe album of all time. Like, that's how crazy the bars on this album were. Like, I mean, man. And then not only that, some of the songs on here, I mean, before we get into the favorite tracks, I also want to mention that at this time, and I'm all over the place with this, but I just want to cover everything that I didn't get to cover in the last video. That's one of the stresses, is like I did everything perfect on the first video, so now having to do it again is like I'm kind of a little upset at it, but at the same time I'm gonna try my best. One of the things was, I think I mentioned in the intro of this video, is the whole East Coast West Coast thing was going on at the time, and at this time, even though it revolved around the Tupac, Death Row, Biggie, Bad Boy situation, eventually everybody from underground and commercial, mainstream, everybody was involved. It was damn near like a comic book event where everybody that was a part of hip hop was involved, throwing shots. It didn't matter, because at the time the separation between mainstream and underground wasn't really there yet. It was getting there. Maybe 2 years later, that's when the separation really happened. But '96, everybody was involved at some point. Like, mainstream people were collaborating with underground people and vice versa. So yeah, no matter if you were mainstream or underground, you were involved in this feud and you were throwing shots. Being that Tribe is one of the most integral and most innovative groups in New York City, they were no exception, and they were going to get shots thrown at them too. In fact, Dub C from West Side Connection threw a shot at Q-Tip on Cross Him Out with a K. Abstract Rube, I think from Freestyle Fellowship, and I guess from his group Abstract Tribe Unique, he threw a shot at Q-Tip. And MC Hammer and Corrupt from the Dog Pound threw a shot at Q-Tip as well, and the whole tribe on NYC 87. So the reason why they threw a shot at Q-Tip is because Q-Tip on a doo-wop freestyle off the Shook Ones Part 1 beat threw a shot at the West Coast, even though he said that what he said on that song wasn't meant as a shot. It was meant as it was meant towards people that were actually hating the West Coast, because he basically said on the rhyme, all you West Coast haters could, get lost and whatever. But Q-Tip had to respond, and he did so on the song. What's the song? Keep It Moving. Basically saying that he's not an ass kisser. He didn't mean to disrespect that West Coast like that, but he's not a sucker neither. So just leave him be. And he also talks about the East Coast West Coast beef too on the What Really Goes On in the first verse, where he basically explains how this whole beef shit is so whack. We should be working together instead of with each other. Instead of going against each other, and that we're arguing about blocks and cities that we don't even own. So, like, come on, really? But yeah, man. Overall, this album to me is pretty amazing. Everybody brought it. Q-Tip, Fife, and even Consequence. Like, again, that's why I don't really understand the hate for this album. I mean, the beats, the rhymes. It is called Beats, Rhymes, and Life for a reason. You know what I mean? Just because it's, look, with the discography as amazing as Tribe's, I guess somewhere in the middle there has to be a lesser known, like a weak link of an album. But even so, this album isn't that bad in comparison to most other hip hop albums. This album is actually great. Also, I think these are the first for Tribes that it debuted #1 on the Billboard 200, and it was certified platinum. And it was nominated for Grammys for Best Rap Album, and once again was nominated for the Best Rap Performance by a Duo or Group. So that's cool. Now let's get into the favorite tracks now. Get a Hold, one of the best solo tip joints. Not saying it's the best one he ever made, because the Renaissance album to me is like amazing, but as far as on a Tribe album, yeah. And one of the best beats too, one of my favorite beats. I actually jogged to that song too at one point. Jam, which to me is like a sequel to Electric Relaxation. It could be Electric Relaxation too. To me, it's like, in order for me to describe what Jam is like if Electric Relaxation was made during the People's Instinctive era. It has like that club party vibe from the People's Instinctive Travels, with the bars and lyricism of Midnight Marauders. That would be like a way to put that. Crew, which is probably the most violent Q-Tip has ever been on a track ever. If you listen to that song, you'll know why at the end. Just listen to it. Listen to the subject matter and listen to what happens at the end. Like, you never hear Q-Tip ever that violent ever again. Once again, which basically Check the Rhyme Part 2, being a sequel to probably the greatest Tribe Called Quest song ever made, it's already going to give you points. But I actually like the female vocalist on the hook too. Like, very, very dope. Not as good as Check the Rhyme, but as a sequel, it's pretty worthy in my opinion. The Hop, another great song. Wordplay, probably in my personal opinion, the best song on the album, and the best beat on the album too. You know, the way that Q-Tip, Phife, and Consequence like go in and out, glide in and out of each other's not even verses, they glide out in and out bar wise, and it's pretty unique. I really like that. Stressed Out. The only thing is, I wish that Raphael Sadiq and Fife's verse was included on the original instrumental because I prefer that as opposed to the remix. And plus, Raphael Sadiq and Faith Evans on a hook together, amazing. Overall, yeah, this is the Darkest Tribe album. Yes, it had problems, not artistically at all. I think it was more so internally, but all in all, a great album. I can't see why people complained about it. At first viewing of 1996, probably I could see why, but overall, no. And I guess you could attribute the success of this album being that it came off of Midnight Marauders. You know, if your last album was Midnight Marauders and there's a 3-year wait, and you hear Tribe's coming out with an album, I can imagine that the Tribe fans were having their mouths watery, just clamoring to get a hand on this album. But overall, since we rated these Tribe albums before, I'm gonna give this a 4 out of 5. Pretty decent, because if Midnight Marauders is a 4.5 and this is like, at one point if I was debating if this was the same level or above, I could honestly say that this is a 4. It could be a 4.5, but I'm sticking with a 4. Anyways, that's it guys for this album review. Give Beats, Rhymes and Life a try. Don't listen to the naysayers. Check it out for yourself. And if you like it, cool. If not, explain why in the comments below. Again, like, comment, subscribe only if you feel like I've earned it. Remember guys, subscriptions are earned, not asked for. And yeah guys, so before time runs out on the phone, this is CJKid123 signing out. Love you, be safe, and hopefully you come back again when we do the next review for the Love Movement, since I wasn't really seasoned the first time I did it. So can't wait to look forward to that one. Alright guys, this is it. Peace. Until next time.